Welcome back to the Shigeaki Podcast, where aging isn't something we endure, it's something we master. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman. Today's episode may surprise you, because it's not about sugar or red meat or alcohol. It's about something that almost everyone believes is healthy, something warm, comforting, ancient, something you may be drinking every day even right now as you listen. Tea. But not all teas are created equal. And after 60, some of the most popular healthy teas may actually be doing more harm than good. Let me tell you about Teresa. She's 72, a retired nurse, always hydrated. Every morning she drank 2 cups of green tea from tea bags. After lunch, a bottled iced tea. And every evening a detox herbal blend that promised better sleep and better skin. But after a few months her sleep collapsed. She was waking up every 2 hours. Her heart raced at night. She felt dizzy in the mornings. Her skin looked pale, her knees ached, and her legs began to swell. When we sat down and traced her routine, the answer wasn't mysterious. It was in her mug. Mark, she asked me, how can tea, something so gentle, be hurting me? And today we're going to answer that question. Because after 60, your relationship with tea has to change. What once soothed you might now rob your sleep, your strength, and your hydration. And no one understands this better than the man I'm honored to speak with every week. A physician who's helped thousands of older adults use food and tea as medicine, not just habit. A national figure in Japan, where tea isn't a beverage but a ritual of longevity. He's a neurologist, a teacher, and at over 100 years old, a living example of what it means to age with presence and clarity. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, welcome back.
Thank you, Mark. It is always an honor. You know, in Japan we don't ask, what tea do you drink? We ask, when do you drink it and why? Because tea is not just a liquid. It is a signal. The right tea at the right time can calm the heart, clear the mind and support the legs. But the wrong tea, too strong too often or at the wrong hour, can quietly cause insomnia, dehydration, and even disturb the nervous system's rhythm. I have seen many elders drink tea for health, but lose sleep, lose muscle, or lose balance because of how they used it.
And that's exactly what we're exploring today. The 4 most common teas that may be harming your health after 60. What they do inside your body and why your nervous system responds differently with age. And the 4 teas we actually recommend based on science, tradition, and healing. If you've ever felt dizzy after tea, if your sleep is lighter, your legs weaker, or your skin drier, this might be the episode that finally explains why. Let's get right into it. Tea is one of the most consumed beverages on Earth, and for good reason. It's warm, it's ancient, it feels natural. But for those of us over 60, some of the most common teas can quietly disturb your sleep, spike your blood pressure, drain your minerals, or overwork your liver and kidneys without you ever noticing. Let's start with the first and perhaps the most misunderstood. 1. Green tea bags. Overused and overcaffeinated, green tea is loaded with antioxidants, yes, but many people drink it in bagged form 2-3 times per day, thinking more is better. The problem: green tea contains caffeine and fluoride, both of which can accumulate and stress the system if consumed too often. Caffeine disrupts sleep and increases heart rate. Fluoride in low-quality teas may damage thyroid and weaken bones. Older adults often metabolize caffeine more slowly, so effects linger longer.
That's something I've seen many times. In Japan, we rarely drink strong green tea late in the day, and we use loose-leaf tea, not bags, because bags can contain dust-grade leaves and even microplastics when steeped in boiling water. For older adults with lighter sleep and slower kidney function, drinking 3 or 4 cups of green tea daily may feel relaxing, but act as a stimulant.
2. Detox herbal teas with strong laxatives. These are marketed as natural cleansing and weight-reducing, but many contain senna cascara or licorice root, powerful herbs that can irritate the digestive tract, cause frequent bowel movements, and lead to electrolyte imbalance, especially low potassium. In older adults, this can trigger leg cramps, irregular heartbeat, dizziness upon standing.
I've seen patients lose muscle mass because of chronic diarrhea from these teas. They think they're cleansing, but they're depleting the very minerals their legs need to walk. Senna should be used under supervision, not in daily evening tea.
3. Bottled iced tea or sweetened black tea. These are everywhere in vending machines, cafes, even hospitals. They often contain added sugars, phosphoric acid, preservatives like sodium benzoate. The result, blood sugar spikes followed by crashes, inflammation in joints, especially knees and ankles, and over time, sluggish circulation in the lower body.
Yes, these teas are convenient but not gentle. They create invisible stress on the pancreas, liver, and vascular system. And for older adults with borderline diabetes or arthritis, they quietly exacerbate both.
4. Fruit-infused tea blends. Often with natural flavoring, they smell amazing: berry hibiscus, citrus chamomile, peach oolong, but many of these are flavored not with real fruit, but with chemical extracts and acidifiers like citric acid. In sensitive adults, they can disrupt tooth enamel, irritate the stomach lining, trigger low-grade acid reflux, and in some cases, reduce calcium retention in bones.
For someone over 60, this creates slow erosion of strength. The knees ache, the legs feel stiff, but they don't realize it's from acidity, not just age. We encourage teas made from whole leaves and flowers, not flavorings in a packet.
So, to recap, too much green tea, especially in bags, detox teas with laxatives, bottled iced teas loaded with sugar and preservatives, fruit-flavored blends with acidifiers, all of these, while labeled healthy, can quietly interfere with sleep strength and hydration.
But don't worry, there are teas that heal. Teas that protect the heart, soothe the nerves, support digestion, and keep your legs light. And when we return, we'll share 4 time-tested teas recommended in both modern science and traditional Eastern medicine that you can enjoy daily after 60.
Now that we've talked about teas that can quietly harm your health, let's shift gears, because the solution isn't cutting tea out of your life, it's choosing the right ones. After 60, your nervous system is more sensitive, your kidneys process fluids differently, your sleep patterns shift, and your legs, joints, and circulation all respond to what you put in your cup. So, today we're going to show you 4 teas that support your brain, your heart, your digestion, and your sleep. Let's start with the most underrated one. 1. Barley tea, Mujicha. Mujicha is perhaps the most overlooked tea outside of Japan. It's made by roasting barley and steeping it in hot or cold water. The flavor is rich, nutty, slightly earthy, but the effects on the body are profound, especially for older adults. Here's why. Mujicha has 0 caffeine, making it ideal for people who are sensitive to stimulation. It contains antioxidants that help reduce oxidative stress, one of the root causes of vascular aging. And it has natural compounds that may support vasodilation, meaning it helps the blood vessels relax and expand gently. This leads to lower blood pressure, better circulation, especially to the hands and feet, fewer cramps in the legs, and better hydration overall. Many older adults drink coffee or black tea all day and wonder why their ankles swell or why they feel wired and tired. Mujicha, on the other hand, brings calm. It doesn't agitate the heart or bladder. What's the best time to drink it?
Mid-morning or after lunch, served warm in winter, chilled in summer. And because it doesn't contain tannins, it won't interfere with iron absorption or digestion. Just don't confuse it with powdered barley drinks. Real Mujicha is made from whole roasted barley grains, boiled for 5 to 10 minutes.
2. Brown rice green tea, Genmaicha. Next up, Genmaicha. This is one of my personal favorites. It's a blend of green tea and roasted brown rice, and I often recommend it to patients who want a light, calming energy boost.
Genmaicha is a staple in Japanese households. Unlike pure green tea, it has less caffeine, a milder flavor, and a more grounding effect thanks to the toasted rice. It provides a small lift in the morning without triggering anxiety palpitations or acid reflux. It also contains L-theanine, an amino acid that promotes alpha brain waves, reduces mental tension, and enhances focus without jitteriness.
So it's ideal for people who say, coffee makes me shaky, but I still need something in the morning. When paired with a light breakfast like an egg toast or oatmeal, Genmaicha gives clarity without chaos.
And because it's lower in tannins than other teas, it's also gentler on the stomach. Just be careful not to steep it too long, or with boiling water. Use water around 80 degrees Celsius, 175 degrees Celsius, and steep no more than 2 minutes.
3. Chamomile tea. Let's talk sleep. So many of my patients over 60 struggle with falling asleep, or worse, staying asleep. Chamomile tea is often dismissed as too mild, but what it does inside the body is impressive. It interacts with GABA receptors in the brain, the same pathway used by many anti-anxiety medications. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that often stays elevated at night in older adults, and it relaxes smooth muscle, meaning it helps not just with mental rest, but physical relaxation too.
I always recommend chamomile for patients who wake up at 3 a.m. with restless legs or racing thoughts. It signals to the body you may stop now. You are safe. For added effect, you can blend it with a slice of fresh ginger for digestion, a teaspoon of honey to gently raise serotonin, or even a few crushed fennel seeds to ease bloating. And remember, drink it slowly. Treat it like a bedtime ritual, not a quick fix.
4. Shiso leaf tea. Pyrrhilla. This last one may be unfamiliar to most listeners, but once you try it, you'll wonder why it's not more popular. Shiso, or pyrrhilla leaf, is part of the mint family. It's used in Japanese and Korean cooking, but as a tea, it's anti-inflammatory, circulatory, and immune supportive.
Shiso is ideal for people who feel cold hands and feet, sluggish circulation, brain fog in the late afternoon, or pain and stiffness in the knees and ankles. It contains compounds that reduce blood clotting support, healthy lipids, and stimulate microcirculation. Best of all, it's naturally caffeine-free, gentle on the stomach, and very aromatic.
When should people drink it?
Late morning or early evening, especially before a walk or light activity. It wakes up the lower body without overstimulating the upper nervous system. Just steep a handful of dried shiso leaves in hot water for 5 to 7 minutes. If you can't find them locally, look online. They're often labeled as pyrrhilla tea or wild sesame tea.
So here's a simple routine you can try this week. Morning Genmaicha for calm energy and digestion, afternoon Mujicha for hydration and blood pressure, evening Shiso for circulation and joint relief. Before bed, chamomile for sleep and nervous system support.
Your body listens to every sip, and after 60, the right tea at the right time becomes a small form of medicine.
So let's take a moment and reflect. For most of our lives, tea feels like a safe choice. It's warm, it's natural, it feels gentle. But as we've seen today, the same tea that helped you relax in your 40s might be stealing your sleep, draining your strength, or disrupting your balance in your 60s and beyond. Because after 60, your nervous system changes. Your kidneys, heart, brain, they all respond differently to caffeine, sugar, acidity, and additives.
Tea is not just about the leaf. It's about the timing, the quality, and your body's readiness to receive it. I've seen patients drink 3 cups of green tea daily and wonder why their hands shake. Others sip sweetened bottled tea all summer and struggle with swollen ankles. But once they make small changes, switching to Mujicha, adding chamomile before bed, choosing loose leaf instead of tea bags, they begin to feel lighter, sleep deeper, and walk with more stability.
So here's what we want you to remember from today. Be cautious with green tea in excess, especially in bags, detox teas with laxatives, bottled or sweetened teas, fruit-flavored teas with chemicals. Instead, embrace Mujicha for gentle hydration, Genmaicha for calm energy, chamomile for deeper sleep, Shiso tea for circulation and strength, and above all, listen to your body. If your tea is making you feel anxious, bloated, jittery, or exhausted, that's not health. That's imbalance.
When we treat tea as ritual, not routine, as medicine, not just habit, it begins to restore us. One cup, one quiet moment, one signal to your body I care enough to choose what helps me heal.
So if this episode helped you rethink your tea habits or even just sparked curiosity, we invite you to subscribe to the Shigeaki Podcast. Share this with someone you love who drinks tea every day. And leave us a review. It helps more people age with clarity and confidence. Until next time, remember, a simple cup of tea can either calm your heart or stress your system. Choose wisely, sip gently, and let your body thank you in return. Oh.